There are so many dirty tactics in academia, I had to really rack my brain to come up with all of them. In fact, I phoned a friend to make sure that I had caught all of them, and he came up with so much more. So here we're going to talk about the dirty tactics that academics use in the peer review system to increase their citations, increase the amount of papers they publish in reputable journals, and how you can draw a straight line between that sort of like metric and the amount of money that they get from grants as well as promotion. So there is a real incentive for people to game the system and to employ these dirty tactics to boost up papers and citations. Here they all are. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. I'll put a link in the description. When you sign up, you'll get 5 emails over 2 weeks, including the tools I use, the podcast and the TEDx talk that I've been on, and much more. It's exclusive content available for free on that newsletter, so go sign up. And also, go check out my merch. I've got merch. I have taken the illustrations from my TEDx talk and I've just put them on stickers. We've got the science tantrum. We've got the science rockstar. We've also got what academic success feels like. I described what it was like to an illustrator and he came up with this, which I think is just amazing. You can get it as stickers, glasses, mugs at the moment. So go check that out. Maybe it'll be that little bit of weird inspiration you need to push on through. The first little dirty tactic in academia is submitting a peer-reviewed paper draft to multiple places at once. So multiple journal articles with varying impact factors. Impact factors are what give you a kind of idea of what impact that journal has when you publish in there. So it's normally like, they get a certain number of citations per article. Now, what you should do as an academic is only submit a peer-reviewed paper to one journal at a time. You actually normally sign a little disclaimer, a little thing, checkbox, whatever it is, where you say, yes, this peer-reviewed article is only being submitted here. But what happens is you can send it to multiple places, tick that box and ignore it, and then see where it gets accepted and choose the one with the highest impact factor. So that is the most sort of like the highest ranking journal that you can get into, and then say to the other ones, oh, actually we've decided to retract our paper from this journal. And it happens, one of my friends actually received the identical paper when he was peer reviewing for 2 different journals, and then he let them both know and both of them retracted it immediately, which is good to know, but the further consequences I do not know. So there is tactic number 1. Tactic number 2 is paper mafias. Now, I love this term because it really sort of like speaks to the heart of what needs to happen for people to game this academic system. It happens in a range of ways. The first way is that if you are on an editorial board, if you are the editor, even a guest editor of a journal, you can say, okay, I'm only going to accept my friends, or I'm only going to give an easy time to people whose work I agree with and supports my research. And you can actually just then really help your own research by being an editor on a journal, even though you're meant to be completely unbiased towards all of the papers that come in. Okay, secondly is names on papers. You can be part of this paper mafia, these citation circles, where you just say, okay, if you produce a paper, put my name on it. If I produce a paper, I'll put your name on it. If your student produces a paper, you put my name on it. If my student produces a paper, I put your, anyway, you get the idea. It's just this whole citation and, putting name on papers kind of mafia circle where they just keep on sort of building and building up on citations and names on papers. They also put on multiple supervisors onto the same project. Now, I've had this happen throughout my academic career. My PhD had 3 supervisors. Each of them had their own little area, kind of, but it didn't work sort of like fully, like it was really because then when I produce one paper, 3 people, 3 academics benefit from it. Then one of my postdocs was 5 supervisors. Yes, each one of them had their own little area, but there was no need for them to have 5 supervisors on one project for one postdoc. And what it is these mafia rings, they are just saying, okay, well, we'll get one student and that one student can service all of our careers. Paper mafias. This way is so common. It's almost unbelievable that it's just not more widely known. But when you send your paper for peer review, the scientist on the other end is meant to just check for accuracy, for make sure that it's actually a novel contribution to the field, and check it over for all sorts of other little mistakes, and then say yes or no. But what happens a lot of the time is the reviewer will ask you to cite their papers. They will say, well, you should add these 20, I've seen 20 or 30 references where they're like, you must add all of these to your paper, and that boosts their citations so much. Also, I've seen editors do this, where editors on a journal will say, okay, you need to also cite all of these papers that are part of this journal. And what that does is boost the impact factor of that journal. The impact factor, like I said, is a ranking of quality of that journal and how much impact, how many people are reading it, how much impact your paper will get if you go in there. And normally you go for as high as possible. And you can just be sort of held ransom until you cite these sources. Another thing that I know of and I have witnessed is if an editor or a peer reviewer delays the peer review process so they can push their own research. Now, this isn't easy to detect because how are you not meant to know, like, oh, they were already working on this and so they delayed my paper. So what happens is a reviewer, normally a scientist in the field, will receive a peer-reviewed paper from somewhere in the world, and they will then say, okay, this is very close to what I'm working on right now. It just give me another couple of months and I reckon I could publish before them and get, the first out of the gate on this particular result or topic. And so they delay it. They just wait. They wait and wait and wait to review. They publish their own paper and then they peer review this and ask them to cite the paper that they've just published, which is on the same work. So delaying the peer review process is a dirty tactic if you're working very closely to what someone else has already achieved and you can actually beat them to it in terms of publishing earlier just by waiting, just by saying, oh, sorry, I'm too busy to peer review at the moment. Editors can do this too and just say, yeah, sorry, I was super busy. It's going to take me a couple of months. And in the meantime, they're publishing that essentially the same work. Author intimidation is something that is rife throughout the academic world. So as a PhD student, you quite often don't have the ability to say no or stand your ground as hard as you can when you're an actual academic. And academics use this to their advantage. They can hold a paper ransom by saying, well, no, don't submit yet because my name isn't on it, or only submit it if this person's name on it, or only submit it if the higher ups in the university's names are on it, even though they've had nothing to do with that paper and the results that you're about to publish to the scientific community. So author intimidation does absolutely happen, and it's something that you need to be very careful and wary of. To be honest, during my time, I lied for people when they said, oh, they need to put this name, you need to put this name, and they contributed very little to the paper, if anything. One of the people that I allowed onto a paper, in fact, only looked over it and said, everything looks good to me when I sent them a draft of the paper. And then I sent it to someone else and they came back with all of these changes, which suggested to me they never actually read that paper, which was very frustrating. Author intimidation can also happen where you've got a name on a paper and they say that they want to hold the paper back for some reason, and if you go ahead and publish it, they can write to the journal where you've published it and get it retracted, because as an author they don't want their name associated with the paper and get it retracted. So it absolutely does happen, and sometimes I've heard of a story where the author intimidation was so bad that the paper never got published. They had a load of results that was ready to go out to the scientific community, and they just decided that this other author was intimidating them so much and so much of a pain to deal with that they would never ever publish that work. How bad's that? The last dirty little tactic that I've seen quite a lot is publishing research with a little twist and claiming it as completely new research. Now, it's very hard sometimes to delineate what is an actual new paper and what is supplementary information or extra information to support a paper. Some people push this to its absolute limits, where they have research results that they publish and then they do one tiny change and they publish what is essentially the same work in a different journal, but with the tiniest of changes, whether it's a different molecule, whether or not it's the same results, just with like an extra little bit of information added. All of these things can just mean that the scientific community is incentivized to publish as much as possible. And so by really fragmenting your research studies and by essentially doubling up on a few things, you can really boost your citations, boost the number of papers that you're publishing, and it can be a massive issue. And because we're incentivized to publish, people do tend to publish rubbish work more frequently rather than waiting for things to be reproduced or bundling stuff up into a really, really great paper that they can be super proud of. Instead, they splinter it out into 5 or 6 papers and end up with low quality work. So there's a dirty little tactic for you as well. This video has been through everything that I could think of about dirty tactics in academia. Let me know in the comments what you would add, but importantly, this is more of a warning so you can see what's going on and whether or not you want to play that game rather than a playbook, or you should do these things, by the way. Also, go check out academiainsider.com. That's my project where I have my ebook, The Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit. It's getting a load of great reviews. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video.